Unlock the darkest stories and unravel the mysteries with Dark Crime Box. Subscribe now and step inside the world of true crime like never before.
What's that?
Nothing on there.
You just have to
My
back
camera.
from the truck up to the garage.
Lay down.
Loaded my stuff up in my coolers, my water jugs, my book bag, my computers, some of the tools that I had from the toolbox. I knew I was going to have to do some pumping into rubbers today. That's why I was out so far.
Is this on continually
Yep.
recording?
Yep. Well,
It's not, is it
any
motion or is it?
event-
Okay, so it's motion.
Any motion event that happens, I get cars driving from this street, and this is him at 517.
I usually park out there on the side. I just want to get everything back in. Be easier, so lugging everything out there, all the tools that I had to bring in. What else can I do with this?
My detective just showed up, so he'll probably want to talk to you. He'd probably, like I said, he might have you call at the bank and see if there's any kind of activity.
Because if there was any sort of action out
On
there,
his cameras,
I would have got it.
like
Right.
we had issues the other week when people were stealing stuff out of like garages and stuff like that, and I had parked my truck
I
out
had
here.
to park right here.
Yeah. So someone,
See if
I could
anything
see where
happened.
someone tried to jimmy with a flathead screwdriver over there, and it was just like,
But if any action would have happened, any cars or anything left your house, I
yeah,
would
if
have
it would
got it.
have been like right in that area, they should have picked. I mean,
Oh, it'll pick up anything coming down the street this way.
you know where that tree is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Watch, I'll show you. There's nothing on here. We've already watched that one. But like, you'll see this car.
What security system do you have?
X-ray this car. You can see this car starting to drive down the street.
That one.
Oh, what?
See what I'm saying? It picks up all the way down there.
That's cool.
He's next door.
Here we go.
I was talking about dispatcher. He'll be close for.
Cause yeah, we can pick up cars coming this way. I get anything coming this way and making this turn. So, and usually at night I pick up the cars pulling a U-turn. So, unless they pulled right here,
Yeah.
but I would have caught her walking out. Diesel.
You're good.
But yeah, I thought nothing.
Nothing for the rest of the day.
No, that's it.
She's pregnant as well.
How far along?
15 weeks. That's why her friend said it was low blood sugar.
And see, I've got her friend leaving out here at 2 in the morning, I think. So, my camera. Did you go check if anything was missing around your house?
There wasn't nothing. It was like all the old blankets and about it. And then her wedding ring was on the nightstand. Her phone was still there.
She dropped her off at 1 in the morning, right?
My doorbell said 1:48. She came in.
Okay. It's not on this one, it'll be on this one. This is for February at 1:48.
So as soon as it picks up motion, it like factual. Okay. I thought you.
That was the start of the video.
Yep.
Stop at 1:48.
Before this story begins, please remember to like this video, share it, subscribe to Dark Crime Box, and turn on notifications. Your support helps us bring these deep dive documentaries to life. The night was quiet. Too quiet for a neighborhood that usually breathed with the soft hum of garage doors, sprinklers, and families winding down after long summer days. On the edge of that silence sat a 2-story home in Frederick, Colorado. Beige siding, trimmed grass, and lights that never flickered. To anyone passing by, it looked like the picture of a peaceful American life. But just before dawn, peace shattered. A missing person report had triggered an urgent welfare check. And when police arrived, they stepped into a stillness that felt wrong, almost staged. A phone abandoned, purse untouched, shoes lined up perfectly by the front door, as if waiting for someone who should have come back home hours ago. In the master bedroom upstairs, the bed was made too neatly for someone who had just returned from a late-night business trip. And downstairs, the faint glow of a security system showed the last recorded fingerprint entry. 1:48 a.m. It belonged to a pregnant 34-year-old mother named Shanann Watts. That was the moment she stepped into her home for the last time. And what happened in the 60 seconds that followed would remain one of the most unsettling and misunderstood pieces of this entire case. An unspoken window of time where everything changed, and where the facade of a perfect family finally collapsed. The house gave no answers that morning. Only shadows, only silence, only the faint impression that something irreversible had happened long before anyone dialed 911. Outside, neighbors watched anxiously as officers moved through the home, piecing together clues that didn't quite add up. A friend described how Shanann never missed a message, never ignored a call, never went anywhere without her children. The growing dread in their voices echoed the truth no one wanted to say out loud. This wasn't just a delay. It was a disappearance with a pulse of danger underneath it. By the time investigators stood on the front porch, they knew this wasn't a routine check. Something about the air felt heavy, like the walls themselves were holding back a secret, the kind that suffocates, the kind that stains every room it touches. Because the tragedy inside this home did not begin with violence. It began with a feeling, a shift no one on the outside noticed, a tension buried under smiles and social media posts, a marriage that photographed beautifully but cracked quietly behind closed doors. And on the night Shanann came home, tired, sick, vulnerable, and hopeful, those cracks widened into something unthinkable. If you look closely at the footage from that morning, you can see it. The tension in the man standing on the porch as cameras rolled. A husband answering questions with a practiced calm. A father describing his missing family with a rehearsed steadiness. A neighbor watching him with an expression that whispered a warning long before detectives picked up on it. Behind all of it sat the unanswered question. What happened in those 60 seconds after Shanann walked through her own front door? They are the seconds no one talks about. The seconds that changed the fate of an entire family. The seconds where reality split into two worlds, what everyone believed and what truly unfolded. Chapter 1 ends as dawn breaks over Frederick. The home still stands. The search intensifies. But somewhere within that house, the truth waits, quiet but undeniable, ready to unravel everything the moment investigators take one step deeper into the darkness. Before we move on, don't forget to hit the like button, share this documentary, and subscribe to Dark Crime Box so you never miss a new true crime deep dive. Before the world knew their names, before the headlines and the horror, there was simply a family that looked like any other. A mother who loved too deeply, a father searching for something he never found, and two little girls whose smiles felt like sunlight in human form. Shanann Watts was the kind of woman who carried her world on her shoulders with grace. Friends described her as driven, compassionate, and sharp in a way that made you pay attention when she spoke. She had survived illness, heartbreak, financial hardship, each chapter shaping her into a woman who fought for the life she wanted. Her social media pages reflected that fight. Clean homes, cute outfits, inspirational quotes, and the steady portrait of a mother who adored her children. But behind the polished photographs was a woman who understood struggle more than she ever admitted. Infertility, hospital visits, a diagnosis that forced her to rebuild her identity from the ground up. Shanann didn't hide these stories, but she refused to let them define her. To her, life had meaning when she pushed forward, even when the path felt impossible. And then came the man she believed was her miracle. Chris Watts, quiet, soft-spoken, a presence that blended into any room without drawing attention. He wasn't the type to lead conversations or command a space. He was the type who nodded, smiled politely, and kept his emotions tucked neatly away behind an unreadable calm. To outsiders, he seemed devoted, supportive, gentle, and patient with the demands of fatherhood. But those closest to the couple saw glimpses of imbalance. How Shanann carried the emotional load. How Chris floated through decisions with detached compliance. How their differences created a push-and-pull dynamic that never fully settled, even during their happiest moments. Their love story began fast and burned bright. Too bright, some would later say. Marriage followed, then the birth of Bella, then Celeste. A family that looked complete, vibrant, and hopeful. A family that filmed birthday parties, dance routines, and road trips as if preserving a life they were terrified might one day slip away. And then, in 2018, another thread was added to the tapestry. A new pregnancy, a baby boy, a child Shanann had dreamt of. Someone she believed would bring their family even closer. She announced it with joy, filming her husband's reaction, documenting each step with the belief that she was capturing the start of a new, beautiful chapter. But while she saw new beginnings, something inside her home was quietly unraveling. Chris began to drift, not in explosive ways, not in arguments or confrontations. His distance showed up in smaller moments. Late-night workouts that lasted too long, phone habits that shifted, a fading warmth in his interactions, the kind of emotional withdrawal that creeps in silently and settles like dust. Shanann noticed. She always noticed. Her texts became more emotional, her tone more uncertain. She replayed conversations in her head, trying to understand what she couldn't quite see but could undeniably feel. By summer, the shift grew undeniable. Family trips revealed cracks through subtle gestures. The way Chris stood apart, the way he smiled less, the way he seemed present in body but not in spirit. And still she tried. She scheduled counseling. She wrote letters. She held on to the hope that the man she married, the quiet mechanic who once looked at her like she was the sun, was still in there. But the Chris she believed in was slipping away into a version of himself no one recognized. A version carving a new life in secrecy, while maintaining the mask of a dedicated father and husband. And this was the moment right here where the tragedy truly began. Not with the crime, but with the silence that preceded it. A silence that grew louder each day. A silence that followed Shanann across states. A silence that met her at the airport the night she returned home. And a silence that waited for her, coiled, inside her house as she stepped into the dark. Before we continue, take a second to support the channel. Hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to Dark Crime Box. Your support keeps these long, investigative documentaries coming. The summer before Shanann's final night was marked by small details. Tiny fractures that didn't scream danger, but whispered it. These moments rarely make headlines, yet they form the architecture of every tragedy. And in the Watts home, these cracks widened quietly, almost politely, beneath the surface. It began with distance, not the kind measured in miles, the kind measured in silence. Chris, once responsive and predictable, started slipping into habits that didn't align with the life he had built. Message bubbles left hanging, unusual workout schedules, a sudden obsession with fitness and appearance. His phone became a second heartbeat, always near him, always lighting up, always turning face down the moment someone walked into the room. To friends, this looked like self-improvement. To Shanann, it felt like abandonment. Her messages grew more emotional, like she was reaching for a man drifting out to sea. She described feeling alone in her marriage, something she had never admitted publicly. Her trip to North Carolina with the girls became a turning point. While she was hundreds of miles away, Chris's tone changed. He became colder, shorter, harder to read. And during that trip, something happened that still unsettles anyone who studies this case. A tension with his parents that fractured the family in a way Shanann could never repair. The infamous incident at his parents' home, an argument surrounding food allergies, boundaries, and loyalty, left Shanann hurt and protective, and left Chris distant and strangely unemotional. It was as if her pain inconvenienced him instead of moving him. When she returned to Colorado temporarily, hoping to reconnect, Chris seemed almost relieved when she decided to leave again. On the outside, this looked like normal marriage strain. But on the inside, the foundation was beginning to rot. Friends later said they had never seen Shanann so unsure. Her confidence dimmed. Her voice, usually firm and energetic, softened in a way that hinted at heartbreak she didn't want to believe. During that same period, Chris's transformation intensified. New clothes, new grooming habits, new patterns. It was as if he was shedding his old identity, piece by piece. His once predictable routines became unpredictable. His emotional transparency evaporated. He stopped engaging in family check-ins. He withdrew from conversations about the baby. He avoided physical affection. He dodged every attempt Shanann made to mend what she felt slipping through her hands. And in the middle of this unraveling, another shift emerged. The secret life. A life that rewrote his priorities. A life built on deception, denial, and risk. A life he protected more fiercely than the family he once promised to cherish. This secret life shaped his moods. It shaped his excuses. And it shaped the dangerous detachment forming inside him. An emotional distance so deep that even his closest friends sensed something was wrong. Shanann, meanwhile, was preparing to fight for her marriage. She booked counseling sessions. She wrote notes expressing her fears and hopes. She made lists of ways they could reconnect. She was, as always, trying to build something out of breaking pieces. But the most chilling red flag wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was the quietness. The kind of quietness that forms only when someone has already made up their mind long before anyone realizes it. And that's the silence Shanann returned home to on the night of August 12th. A silence built from weeks of emotional withdrawal, secret decisions, and a man who appeared physically present but spiritually absent. Before the story moves into the night of the crime, take a moment to support the channel. Hit the like button, share this video, and subscribe to Dark Crime Box so we can continue bringing you these deep, immersive investigations. The night Shanann returned home was ordinary in appearance. Yet the atmosphere inside the house had shifted into something unrecognizable. She entered after a long trip, carrying the exhaustion and hopes of a mother returning to her children, unaware that the man she had trusted most had already decided on a path she could never escape. The final moments unfolded in silence, measured only by the seconds that ticked toward tragedy. Months of tension, emotional withdrawal, and hidden choices culminated in an act so sudden and irreversible that it left no room for hesitation, negotiation, or mercy. In that house, a future that had been imagined birthday parties, bedtime stories, holidays was extinguished. Innocence vanished with the smallest hands, with voices that would never cry for help again. The horror was total, intimate, and unspeakable. In the hours after the crime, a calculated cover-up began. Appearances were everything. Doors were closed, evidence carefully arranged, and timelines meticulously rehearsed. The home that had once been a sanctuary was now a stage, and the narrative of a worried husband became a fragile mask over the cold reality of what had occurred. But truth has a way of surfacing, even when hidden beneath lies. Digital footprints betrayed the pretense. GPS data revealed movement inconsistent with the story. Security cameras captured moments that contradicted the carefully constructed facade. Friends and neighbors noticed behaviors that didn't align with fear or concern, small, unsettling details that would later speak volumes to investigators. Even as he tried to control the narrative, the evidence quietly accumulated, a silent witness to the reality of his choices. And then came the impact, the human cost that no forensic report or surveillance footage could quantify. Family and friends grappled with incomprehensible loss. Shanann's loved ones mourned a woman who had given everything to nurture, protect, and love, now taken from them too soon. Her children, Bella and Celeste, became symbols of innocence destroyed, their lives cut off in the midst of everyday routines that should have been safe. Communities that had once waved casually across fences and sidewalks were plunged into shock, the ordinary suburban streets now haunted by whispers of betrayal, violence, and unthinkable tragedy. Vigils formed. Candles flickered in darkened windows. Social media feeds filled with memories, photographs, and tributes. Neighbors, friends, and even strangers struggled to reconcile the image of a smiling family with the nightmare that had occurred behind closed doors. The house itself, the stage of the final moments, became a somber symbol, a reminder that appearances can mask the most destructive realities. In the aftermath, the narrative lingers like a shadow. Danger does not always arrive with noise or spectacle. Sometimes it hides in quiet gestures, in subtle withdrawals, in choices made behind the closed doors of seemingly normal lives. It is a reminder that darkness often arrives slowly, unobserved, until it is too late to intervene. The story of Shanann Watts and her children leaves a haunting question that resounds beyond headlines. How can love and trust coexist with secrecy and deception? How do we recognize danger in the moments that seem ordinary before it consumes everything we hold dear? If you are feeling the weight of this story, take a moment to honor the lives lost, reflect on the lessons hidden in tragedy, and ensure the voices silenced are remembered. And as you process this, don't forget to like this video, share it with others, and subscribe to Dark Crime Box so we can continue telling these stories with the depth, care, and intensity they deserve. Because in the end, the story isn't just about the crime. It is about the lives forever altered, the questions left unanswered, and the chilling reality that sometimes the most horrifying moments are the ones we never see coming.